The Earth is a beautiful planet that we are lucky to call home, but it once appeared very differently than it does now. From huge insects to huge mushrooms to a lot of toxic rain, we've got so much to talk about today when it comes to the rich, cool, and fascinating history of the Earth. What is up, Top 10 fam? Welcome back. I am your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and today we are going to be diving into the top 10 times in history Earth looked like an alien planet. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have more oxygen. Ah yes, good old oxygen. Did you know that there was a time on Earth around 300 million years ago where the air was filled with about 50% more oxygen than it currently is? What a treat that would be. Well, maybe not, because there is such a thing as too much oxygen, but it just feels like everything would have been nicer and cleaner. But regardless of that, this oxygen influx of course created a wonderful place for life to thrive, and with that came my absolute worst nightmare. We are talking about massive, gigantic insects. Everywhere. Because of the mass amounts of oxygen in the air, little insects had a hard time being able to survive, so evolution took the wheel and they just kept getting bigger and bigger. Scientists have found fossils of dragonflies that are the size of seagulls, and just for a little picture in your mind of how big we are talking, their wings were over 2 feet long. It's so cool but so disgusting at the same time. Oh, also, apparently it is believed that these huge dragonflies were flesh eaters as well, so sleep tight tonight with that thought. In our number 9 spot today we have acid rain. Nothing like purple rain, acid rain once fell on the Earth for about 100,000 years. In what scientists call, quote, intense chemical weathering, it is said that acid rain continuously fell from the skies during this time. The rain was so heavy and hard that it melted the glaciers that covered the planet, the air was full of carbon dioxide, and the rain even poisoned the oceans. The good news, however, is that this period where the Earth was inhospitable to life, especially ours as we know it, actually is part of what set us up for success. The rain sent nutrients into the ocean that helped life in the sea develop, which then sent oxygen into the atmosphere, which we obviously know is great for living things. This period, as terrifying and toxic as it was, really is what made the explosion of life on Earth in the Cambrian period possible. I guess we all gotta go through some toxic periods to reveal our full potential. In our number 8 spot today we have sky, orange sky. Okay, this one is so hard to wrap my brain around because it's just so different from everything we know. We know the sky is blue. It's one of the first facts you know. We know the oceans are blue, but of course these things are a product of their atmosphere, and as it's becoming abundantly clear, the atmosphere on Earth has changed a lot since the planet came into existence. Right now it is believed that the entire color scheme of the planet was extremely different about 3.7 billion years ago. At this point in time it is believed that the oceans were green. This is because of the iron formations that were dissolving into them. It spilled a sort of green rust which would have tainted it that same color. Green ocean, okay, that's not so far off from the oceans we have today, but that's not it. It is believed that at the same time the continents were black and the sky was orange. That's so weird. The continents are assumed to be black because they would have been covered with cooling lava and there was no plant life. The whole no plant life thing is then, in part, what would have made the skies orange. Because Earth's atmosphere at this time was mostly methane, when the sun's light pierced through the atmosphere, if we were around to view it, it would have appeared to us as an orange haze. So wild. In our number 7 spot today we have giant mushrooms. Mushrooms are one of the coolest things on Earth. I know that sounds insane, but they really are just incredibly interesting, and apparently about 400 million years ago, they were huge. At this same point in time, it is said that trees would only come up to around your waist instead of being the tall plants we know today. The mushrooms, however, were killing the game. At one point in the rich history of Earth, it is said that one kind of mushroom, prototaxites, were on every corner of the Earth, and they were also towering over everything else on the planet. How wild is that? These mushrooms had trunks that apparently grew to be around 26 feet tall and were 3 feet wide. And despite that not necessarily being taller than our tallest trees, that's definitely taller than our tallest mushroom. They didn't have a cap on the top like the mushrooms we know today. Apparently it is said that they were basically just like a big trunk. Like a big mushroom pillar sticking out of the ground. Imagine putting that on your pizza. In our number 6 spot today we have Stinky Earth. Around 1.9 billion years ago it is said that because of a gassy bacteria that was feeding on the salt water in the oceans, the Earth apparently smelled like rotten eggs. There's a lot of reasons I'm glad I wasn't born 1.9 million years ago, and now I've just added one to the list. The bacteria would take in salt and release hydrogen sulfide, which is what has led scientists to believe that the Earth would have stunk horribly. Also, rotten eggs is a gross but polite way of saying that the Earth probably smelled like farts. Which is gross, but also funny. In our number 5 spot today we have the purple planet. Okay, so we've talked about a time when the oceans were green, the continents were black, and the sky was orange, so now let's talk about a time when the Earth was purple. I know it sounds like I'm making it up, but I swear it's apparently true. We are past the point of black continents and we now have plant life growing, but our beautiful plants weren't always green apparently. According to some experts, it is believed that because plant life used to absorb the sun differently, the plants first used retinol, which would have turned them a beautiful and vibrant shade of violet. From here, once the plants began to turn green, it is said that the oceans became purple because a thick layer of purple sulfur covered the water near the surface. It also made them extremely toxic. So apparently there was a point in time where if you saw the planet from space, it was purple. That's super cool, but super weird. In our number 4 spot today we have the Snowball. Okay, we know all about ice ages. Well, maybe not all about them, but we know that they've happened on our planet before, but it is said that an ice age that occurred about 716 million years ago turned our planet into basically a huge snowball because the Earth was so covered in ice. I'm talking glaciers near the equator kind of cold. And scientists know this in the most insane way. By looking at ancient glaciers in Canada. Science is so wild. Apparently during this snowball era, the part of Canada where these ancient glaciers were located was actually near the equator. It is said that the warmest parts of Earth during this period were as cold as the Arctic is now. There is one flaw in this snowball theory, however, and that is the fact that during this time, volcanoes were also constantly erupting, which would have sent volcanic ash everywhere, so it probably looked more like a snowball that had dirty, muddy snow in it. And maybe a couple of sticks too. In our number 3 spot today we have the Arctic. Well, we just talked about one of the coldest times for the Earth, so let's keep up with the cold thoughts and head to the Arctic. Except for this Arctic is nothing like the one we know now. Approximately 50 million years ago, the Arctic was a completely different place, and this was during a time called the Eocene Epoch, which was significantly warmer than it is now. It was so warm that even the tips of the globe, or the Arctic, were covered in green. It was like a huge freshwater pond that was full of life. Even the water was filled with green plants. It wasn't like a tropical vacation or anything like that, but still, compared to the icy waters we know now, it was a huge change. In our number 2 spot today we have dust. We've heard about the asteroid that is said to have wiped out the dinosaurs, but we don't talk a lot about what the Earth went through during that time. A species-ending asteroid is obviously going to have some insane impacts, and one of them is how the world turned dark after the impact. 65 million years ago when the asteroid hit Earth, the impact sent dust, debris, soil, rocks, everything flying into the sky. Tons of it ended up getting stuck in the atmosphere, which created like a cloud of dust which shrouded the entire planet. Everything that was living on Earth was now living in a way darker atmosphere than they once were. This luckily only lasted for a little while, like perhaps a few months, but imagine if the sun just went away unexpectedly for a few months. Better stock up on that vitamin D. Even when most of the dust had faded, sulfuric acid stayed up in the stratosphere and got into the clouds, which then became so thick that they began to black out the sun's rays, and also brought acid rain with them. So, all in all, it was a terrible time to be alive. In our number 1 spot today we have hot magma rain. Also not like purple rain, apparently about 4 billion years ago the Earth was constantly getting pummeled by asteroids, which turned our planet into a super scary one. The oceans were so hot they were boiling, and they apparently ended up vaporizing. Parts of the Earth were melting, the giant rock masses on Earth were so hot that they were basically just liquid that was drifting around, and to make this horror scene even worse, it is said that some of the rocks were vaporized into Earth's atmosphere. Magnesium oxide was going into the atmosphere like it was evaporating water, and from here it condensed into little droplets of hot magma, which then rained down from the skies about as often as we get regular rain now. Yeah, put your umbrella away. It's not gonna do anything when it's raining lava. Really adds a spin to that game, The Floor is Lava, if you know what I mean. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video today, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozolowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye!